I've had a lot of comments recently on some of my videos asking me how I know what items are the best to pick up when I'm doing my loot runs. The unsatisfying answer is that it comes down to game knowledge. Depending on what time of the wipe you're playing, what's actually going on in the wipe, and what style you like to play will affect what items you want to pick up. But I wanted to make a quick rundown video of items that I always look for because they are used in the hideout. For example, all of the different screwdrivers, screw nuts, screws themselves, bolts, those are all really good for crafting as well as just selling on the flea market because they're used in various barters. Even the basic wrench is currently going for about 10,000 rubles on the flea market because it's used in a barter. But the ratchet wrench and the pipe grip wrench are two things that I always get excited when I find because they still sell to therapists for a pretty good amount. Pliers and nippers, I'm not as excited about usually, but they still meet that, kind of meta requirement of 10,000 rubles per slot that everyone is going for. The other big thing is food. Emergency water rations, anything that I can use food-wise that's a barter, so like the chocolate in the hideout can be used to make packs of sugar, which I then barter for the FLIR thermal imaging optic. Really, really good to always pick them up. Humpback is great because you can trade it to therapists for a car kit, and then you can use the car kits at the med station to craft into Saluas. Straight Tashankas are also really valuable because they restore a ton of energy. So a small can of Tashanka and an emergency water ration will actually get me through a full 45-minute raid and not have me running out of any energy at all. The 42T is probably one of the best early and mid-wipe barter items because you get a pillbox backpack for one pack of that T. So the way I kind of look at it is if I pick up this 42T, well, that saves me having to buy that pillbox later, which saves me rubles in my actual wallet. There are a few other really good food items that I like to go for. The Vita is really good. The Grand Pomegranate Juice is really good. But they're 2-slot items. I try to go for those 1-slot items because food will not retain its value selling on the flea market as well as it does just straight bartering. The other thing that I always try to keep a lookout for is everything on this list that I'm going to have on the screen here, a list of every item that you need for all hideout upgrades. Now, I don't recommend some of the bigger items holding on to them early wipe, mostly because you need the space if you're like me and on a standard account. If you're on an Edge of Darkness account, go right ahead. You have all the space in the world. But for those of us that don't have that, space is a commodity. So you have to kind of pick and choose and what you think is going to be harder to find later on. For example, the phased array element takes up a lot of space, and early wipe and even mid wipe, you're pretty far away from the solar power upgrade that requires that. So I actually found like 2 or 3 early wipe. I sold them. They just take up too much space, and I can use that ruble income elsewhere. Now, if you are looking for pure value, you don't really care about the hideout, I would still hold on to this list because other people do. And that is where you will make money. You might find packs of nails, and right now they're worth about 10,000 on the flea market, and they're not great. Early wipe, they were going for about 25,000. Nixer lenses are another one that early and mid wipe, those go up pretty high and then they drop off. But they're needed. If you know that you are ahead of other people in the wipe, expect to pick some of these items up and resell them to the people that need them still. Now, as far as weapon parts, weapons themselves, and ammo, this is going to be one of those ones where you have to feel out what the wipe is doing. I usually will leave a lot of different weapons unless I know that they are a level 3 or a level 4 trader exclusive. So like the Ash 12 or an SR25 or an RSAS, if I find those in raid, I'm pulling those out. Those are going into my stash and then I'm going to use them later because they are not very common. if I kill someone that has a really decked out M4, I'm going to take the attachments. I'm going to leave the M4. I can buy an M4 off Peacekeeper at level 2, and I can throw the attachments on. And attachments are another thing that kind of change wipe to wipe based on what BSG nerfs or buffs in between the wipes. If you want to actively be checking prices on stuff that you're looting, I would go to tarkov-market.com. They have a live feed of the flea market. It's great, and it's what I use for if I'm like, wait, is this thing more valuable than I think it is? I have 2 monitors, so I just have it up on my second screen. Alt tab over to that real quick if I'm in raid and in a safe place. For this list of all of the hideout items, that is from the site tarkov-helper, and that is another site I actually recommend because it allows you to track what items you have in your stash and what items you don't, or what items you need for quests. Both are super good sites that can help you be better at the game in a meta sense. Now, all that said and done, I do have to talk a little bit about stash space management. This is something that I struggle with even to this day. My stash right now is chock full. I have no room for stuff that's coming in from insurance. I'm holding on to a ton of stuff that I shouldn't be holding on to. It's one of my biggest weaknesses in the game, and if I had the Edge of Darkness edition, I wouldn't really have that problem as bad. The weapon rack did actually help that a bit. I now have a full weapon rack, but I want to now get it to level 2, which requires me to unlock stash level 3, which is a pretty big ruble investment. So my advice on stash management is if you're not going to use the item or the bag in a quick enough set of time, sell it. Try to keep a few extra backpacks laying around, and this is where my current curse is I'm sitting on like 3 or 4 mechanism bags that are just full of stuff. And then keys are my other big weakness. I probably have 3 or 4 copies of all of like the important keys for quests that I have already done. I just haven't taken the time to list or sell those on the flea market, and I in fact will probably be just selling it to therapists at some point. Usually about 3 or 4 times a wipe, I do a full stash purge. I sell everything in it, everything in all my cases, and I basically start fresh with that big pile of rubles. Highly recommend trying that a few times a wipe to help break yourself off of the habit of sitting on just stacks and stacks of gear and ammo and keys that you're not going to use. After my last few videos, I had a few people asking for some more in-depth on certain aspects when I'm doing these runs. So I'm going to be starting to work on another one of those videos in the next week or 2. I have an EVE Online and a Zero Sievert video that I'm working on first, so expect those coming out in the next week or 2. Leave a comment down below if there's any other specific thing you want me to dive into, whether it be specific routes for a map, if it's a specific type of loot you're looking for, anything like that. Hit that subscribe button and the bell so that way you get notifications when I do put out videos, and hit the like button. I want to thank you guys all for watching, and I especially want to give a big thank you. We hit 100 subscribers on the channel over this last week, so, big thanks to everyone that subscribed. I look forward to the next 100 subscribers, hopefully the next 500, 1,000, and so on as we grow the channel. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.